Assassin's Creed Shadows has moments of pure brilliance, flashes of genius that make you think, bloody hell, Ubisoft's only gone and done it. For a brief, glimmering second, it feels like one of the best entries in the franchise's long history. But then, reality hits harder than a katana to the bollocks, because the cold hard truth is this: Assassin's Creed Shadows is still an Assassin's Creed game, and that, my dear degenerates, is a bastard of a curse. Ubisoft, bless their greedy hearts, can't help themselves. They've jammed in every tired franchise trope, like they're trying to win a game of bingo. Tower map reveals? Check. Clunky story? Check. Big maps for the sake of being so? Check. Hammed in reasoning to assassinate a load of old people? Check. Side quests that make you want to fake your own death just to avoid playing them? Triple check. You see, this game should have been its own beast, a standalone samurai ninja epic with a fresh IP to the Ubisoft name, with new mechanics and the freedom to whip out its metaphorical todger and waggle it proudly in the wind. Instead, Shadows gets weighed down by the same old Assassin's Creed crap. You can feel it, that creeping sameness, the tick box design, the handcrafted open world that somehow still feels manufactured. And it's a crying shame, because under all that tired thinking, there's a gorgeous, brutally atmospheric ninja tale begging to break free. So, put the kettle on, make a cuppa, and let's go full stealth mode on Assassin's Creed Shadows. One of Assassin's Creed Shadows' biggest problems hits you square in the bollocks within the first 5 hours. That opening stretch is rougher than a geisha house on discount night. Ubisoft tries to set the scene with a sweeping tale of samurai, honour, betrayal, all that jazz, but it quickly nosedives into a narrative swamp. And it's not just the story that stumbles out the gate like a drunk Ronin, it's the immersion too, or lack of it, shall I say. Every time you start to sink into the world, boom, fade to black, uploads another boring and frankly poorly edited cutscene. It's like the game's having an existential crisis. One moment you're slicing throats in a bamboo forest, next thing you know, the screen fades to black and suddenly you're in the Animus loading screen for a few seconds and then fade to black again. Then another cutscene, then fade to black to load back into your world. It's like watching some shite art house film edited by someone with narcolepsy. Compare that to, say, Elden Ring, God of War, or even Red Dead Redemption 2, all proper sandbox RPG epics that pull you into their worlds with storytelling smoother than an expensive sake. But Shadows, it's like being dragged along for the ride when you're screaming for it all to stop. And then there's the protagonist. Now look, I told myself I weren't going to dive into the whole woke or historically inaccurate bum fight. That's one for you lot to kick off about in the comments section. It's been flogged to death across the internet already. What I will say though is that it does feel a little bit token, like Ubisoft's trying to start an argument at the pub just to get a bigger crowd in. Now, in fairness, these characters, they are based on famous historical figures, so we can't say that Ubisoft are completely putting this stuff out their arsehole, but instead of giving us a proper deep dive into feudal Japan, which, let's be honest, is overflowing with some of the most insane, incredible stories like the 47 Ronin, we instead get a bland, clinical revenge plot and a story, albeit with Ubisoft's creative freedom thrown in, that involves the African slave who joins side with the villain. Now, does that make it a bad game by default? Of course it bloody doesn't, but it does make me wonder if this was really the best version of feudal Japan that they wanted to share from all the amazing stories to pick from. Truth is this, my pedigree chums, it doesn't matter what story they eventually selected anyway, because the way it's delivered, from the script, the tons of side quests and the acting, well, it's all a bit shit. For example, this side quest here has me talking to a bloody dog, a dog that understands English, and together we go on a plot of revenge and kill bandits along the way. Assassin's Creed Shadows doesn't present any of its key story arcs with enough conviction, and what could have been a gripping, culturally rich tale ends up flopping harder than a shogun in an ice bath. Which brings me neatly to Shadows' biggest problem of all, and that is this: it's still an Assassin's Creed game. Yeah, I know, shocking twist of the century, right? But bear with me here, because this point only becomes clearer once we start talking about all the good stuff, which we will, I promise. It's just that the good bits actually highlight how shackled this game is by the franchise's crusty old formula. Let's start with the age-old Ubisoft tradition of climbing tall buildings like you're auditioning for Cirque du Soleil. Every new area demands you scour some phallic-looking tower to synchronise and open up the map, as if your ninja needs to stop mid-murder spree for a bit of sightseeing. Mate, you're a stealthy, blood-soaked death dealer, not a scaffolder. And here's the thing, there was no need for it anymore, as they found a great solution. The game's actually got this brilliant system using your hideout and shinobi operatives, letting you gather intel and sniff out quests naturally like an actual underground network would. So why not let them uncover the map? You've got a little army of silent killers. Use them. Let them do the heavy lifting while you sit back upgrading katanas. But no, Ubisoft just can't help themselves but shove us back into the same tired loop. Climb tower, spot baddies, infiltrate outposts, drop down from the rafters to give some poor sod an unexpected tussle massage with a dagger, of course. Now don't get me wrong, it's fine the first couple of times, but every single bloody game, every single poxy new area, we've had this nonsense for almost 20 years now, and they haven't changed it one iota. And the worst part, there's so much potential to break the mould. Imagine building a proper shinobi army, crafting legendary gear by hijacking enemy supply chains, or creating covert ops to sabotage enemy fortresses, where you create an almost heist type approach involving multiple quests that culminate in a final blockbuster piece, aka GTA 5 heist. And yeah, I thought of all that while taking a massive dump. So if I can whip that out in 10 minutes on the bog, Ubisoft's got no excuse with their hundreds of devs at their disposal. Instead, they got the game design all back to front once again. First, they start with the Assassin's Creed formula, and from there they shoehorn in the new setting, and they will continue to do this until they absolutely crush the franchise to its core, which I fear may have already happened. Then there's all the animus bollocks, which at this point is about as necessary as a fart in an elevator. Why do we all need a sci-fi plot to justify stabbing samurai in the face? Just let the feudal Japan story live and breathe without dragging us back into the Matrix. And then we have the world map, and Jesus, we'll get into that later, but it's massive. Yeah, I know, that's what she said. Like, I opened it up and suddenly I needed a lie down, because I just knew the energy required to play this game was going to be big. It's a monster game, which for many of you is going to be pure joy. But if you've got a family to run, kids to feed, a day job to go to, and you have other games incoming that you wish to play, chances are you won't ever get through half of what is on offer here. What this series desperately needs is more richness, more complexity, more refinement, not just another 300 icons splattered across a glorified Japanese theme park. Assassin's Creed needs to grow the f*** up, because the setting deserves it, and frankly, so do we. Right then, enough doom and gloom. Let's have a chinwag about some of the good stuff, because believe it or not, Assassin's Creed Shadows does get a fair few things right. Underneath the Ubisoft clutter, there's a game there trying its best to break free like a ninja crawling out the franchise's arse. So you've still got your usual targets to assassinate, no surprise there, but what really tickled my pickle was the introduction of the Shinobi Intel system. Gone are the magical icons that show exact Google longs and lats of a moving target. Nope, this time it's different. Instead, intel comes more natural. Quest givers will give you a feel for a location of a presumed target, as an example, and that's when it all kicks off. You pull up the map, have a little squint to find the rough location, and send out one of your loyal shinobi to investigate where you reckon that target might be. It's a bit like a round of feudal battleships. Target in G7? No, try again, sunshine. And I'll be honest, this little twist in quest design is bloody brilliant, genuinely fresh. Now, this whole system is tied to seasons. You send your shinobi out and you don't get an answer until that season changes. And early on, you're only given a few of the sneaky sods to play with, so you can't just scatter them across the map like confetti at a shotgun wedding. It forces you to think, to strategize, and yes, to actually give a toss. Which brings me nicely to where all this cloak and dagger malarkey begins. Your hideout. A few hours in, the game lets you build your own secret ninja base, and I mean properly build it. None of that click here instant upgrade bollocks. You're actually placing structures, gathering resources, upgrading your operation. It's got that addictive little hit of management sim crack, and it works. And here's the cheeky twist: while some resources you can carry around in your loot sack like a well endowed hoarder, the real chunky stuff comes in big old pallets, and you know who has to schlep those back for you? Yeah, of course, your bloody shinobi lads. They're not just spies, they're delivery drivers too. And with limited resources, you'll find yourself getting surprisingly attached to your hideout. It becomes a little home away from murder, and as you level it up, it unlocks more tools, more tricks, and some other juicy features that I won't spoil here. But rest assured, this bit of the game actually feels earned. It's where Shadows shines. It's subtle, it's smart, and it's satisfying in a way that makes the tower climbing bollocks even more painful to think about. Now let's talk weapons, armour and trinkets, because Shadows doesn't just give you a few deadly toys to play with, it drowns you in them. Honestly, at times it feels less like an assassin's toolkit and more like a medieval looter shooter. Everywhere you turn, there's another sword, another knife, another shiny bit of kit begging for your attention. Now, whether this is pure genius or a pile of old shite depends entirely on your own gaming preference. Some of you will love it, hoovering up every last bit of gear, dismantling the unnecessary bits for crafting materials, upgrading your favourites, and going all out. One thing I will say is that some YouTube reviewers, who shall remain nameless, believe that if you paid for the Ubisoft Plus subscription, you got given a high-end legendary weapon that was pay to win and ruin the experience of the game. Well, I can confirm that is a load of old bollocks, as the legendary items in question are only level 3, and you'll find a common level katana that is level 5 within about an hour of playing that will actually be better. The fact is this: you keep hold of your legendary drops and upgrade them later on, along with other perks using the engraving feature, so don't feel like you're cheating the game just by using these little handouts. But then there's the other side of the argument, the folks who hate the redundancy of it all, the ones who'd rather Ubisoft put more love and care into a few truly unique weapons, instead of throwing a tidal wave of slightly different swords at us like they're running a fire sale. Think Ghost of Tsushima. Every weapon had weight, meaning, history. You found something special and it mattered. Here though, it's more of a numbers game. Collect, scrap, repeat. Me, I didn't mind it personally, to be honest. It didn't detract from the game, but at the same time, I wasn't exactly swooning over my 12th identical looking Tanto with a slightly different crit stat. Either way, I thought it was worth mentioning, as I know this is just player preference. So we now go back to more critique again, and this time it's perks, or rather, why they're about as exciting as watching paint dry. You think, given all the fancy weapons and shinobi tricks, that the perk tree would let you truly hone your inner ninja, but instead it's grindy to get anywhere with them, where you have to collect knowledge points to unlock the next tier of points. After my first 10 hours of playing, I'm stuck on that very first tier of unlockables. Worst of all, I barely needed the traits anyway. Seriously, I reckon you could ghost through the entire game without upgrading a single perk other than story essential ones, and you'd still be absolutely fine. The perks are so situational that half the time I forgot they even existed. Perks like being able to climb your grapple hook quicker or receiving an extra knife just makes it feel like filler, plain and simple. Nothing about it grabs you by the balls and makes you think, yeah, I really needed that. And once again, it's all because Ubisoft insists on following this formulaic RPG structure that they've been trying to master into the series for years now. If you're gonna do a perk tree, do it properly. Give me real choices and dilemmas. Give me actual power shifts. Give me something so ludicrously overpowered that I have to play the game again just to see it in action. But this is just tick box game design at its worst. As for combat, I'll be honest with you lot, at first I absolutely hated it. The first few hours had me wondering if I'd accidentally booted up some overcooked power fantasy instead of an Assassin's Creed game. Everything felt so arcade-like, so chaotic versus the stealthier, slicker combat that I wanted. You do sword slashes so fast they'd make a hummingbird's wings jealous, ridiculous 10-foot style dashes, and a general sense that physics had all but left Earth as you just barge through massive mahogany doors. And coming from the older Assassin's Creed games, the ones that at least pretended to be grounded in realism, This felt jarring as hell, like am I an elite shinobi or have I just unlocked a cheat mode by accident? But then something changed. Somewhere between carving my way through an army of twats and decorating the walls with their blood, I had a bit of self-reflection. Instead of wanting it to be more realistic, I instead treated it more like the crazy 88 fight scene from Kill Bill. When I changed my perspective, I was all in. You're darting around castles, slashing ankle tendons, slicing throats, flipping between weapons and generally making a savage mess of feudal Japan. It's flashy with its animations, it's brutal and it's stupidly fun. You're not really an assassin anymore, creeping in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. You're a woman of steel and death, turning entire enemy camps into mass graves without much fuss, and I'll be honest, I bloody loved it. Now, I said I grew to love the combat, but there is a problem, a major one in fact, and that is the enemy AI is a load of old bollocks. It all comes back to that phrase where I said you take down camps without much fuss, because unfortunately that's exactly what combat is. Easy, predictable and as challenging as a round of thumb war with a toddler. Sure, you've got your parries, dodges and counters, all the usual Ubisoft tricks to keep enemies off balance. But it never feels tense, it's never difficult, it's never clever. The few times I did die, it wasn't because some samurai swordsman outwitted me. It was usually because some bell end off screen was winding up an attack that I physically couldn't see thanks to the shoddy camera angle. And you know how in some games enemies react to you in intelligent ways, how they adapt to your tactics, how they actually behave like human beings with a sense of self-preservation? Yeah, well none of that happens here. Instead, shadows as soldiers standing around like extras in a bad action film, waiting for their turn to die. And it's not just combat too. Sometimes I'd be in mid-conversation and out of nowhere, some random twat would suddenly sprint past, screaming his head off for no reason. My horse, the magnificent steed of a legendary shinobi, yeah, he gets stuck all the time on branches. Other times I'd ride into a massive battlefield as men fight to the death and nobody would bat an eyelid. I'd just sit there on my horse watching it all unfold. One time I butchered half a village and 20 feet away a soldier just stood there mildly suspicious with that yellow sign above his head doing the old must be the wind routine. Mate, your entire squad's entrails are all over your house. Wake the fuck up. And my personal favourite, running straight at an enemy at full sprint, and instead of raising his sword, he freezes in place, does the classic Ubisoft surprised enemy animation and just waits for his death. Even the biggest Assassin's Creed fanboys can't sit there and tell me with a straight face that this AI is up to scratch. It's not. It kills the immersion, it cheapens the combat, and once again it's the same old Ubisoft design philosophy. Throw more bodies at the player, make it a spectacle, but don't make it a specialism. And it's here that I want to talk about the next big contentious issue that will ultimately split you down the middle. That is the world itself of Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, I'll give Ubisoft this. They don't do small. This map is bloody massive, stretching out across feudal Japan like it's trying to compensate for something. But here's the thing, did it need to be this big? I'm not one of those muppets who judges a $70 game purely on how many square miles of virtual land I get for my money. I care about quality. And look, some of you will feel like you got your money's worth here. Fair play. If you're 18 at uni with fuck all to do than watch Bonnie Blue, then yeah, I can see how you'd lose yourself in this for weeks and weeks. But for me, it's just exhausting, because the longer you play, the more you start to see through the illusion. At first, it's glorious. Towns brimming with life, rolling landscapes, cherry blossoms swaying in the wind, all that sexy feudal Japan atmosphere. But as you push deeper, patterns start to emerge. That bustling town, yeah, it's got the same layout as the last one. Big castle, steep moat, a few huts thrown around like someone's playing City Skylines Samurai Edition. NPCs are wandering around, but they're not actually doing anything. They're just walking loops like they've all been programmed to get their steps in for the day. For example, I've not really seen anyone else ride a horse but me, even though stables exist everywhere. And no matter if it's day or night, the same merchants will still stand there, always available to you. And of course, icons upon icons start vomiting onto your map. Collectibles, fast travel points, towers to sink, targets to murder, and every other Ubisoft checkbox activity that you've seen in the past decade. And that's where the cracks really start to show, because this world is not a living, breathing feudal Japan. It's a stage play built entirely around you. Need to make a dramatic leap? Oh look, a conveniently placed bale of hay, like the game knew you were gonna jump. Sneaking into a bandit camp? Don't worry mate, there's always a secret backdoor entrance, maybe a tree with some conveniently broken wooden slats to make it extra obvious that you climb right here. Oh, and let's not forget the grapple hook points perfectly scattered across the map, like Ubisoft sent a ninja health and safety officer ahead of you to ensure you make it okay. And once you notice it, you can't unsee it, and suddenly the world starts to feel artificial as fuck. You're very much the star of the Truman Show. And don't get me wrong, the world is stunning, and we're going to get into the graphics in a minute because they've absolutely smashed it here. But from a design perspective, it's big for the sake of being big. And whilst I can look at games like Red Dead Redemption 2 and say those two were big, they were also alive with detail, with random events, where I was just one of many among a vast open expanse. If there's one thing Ubisoft has now though, it's how you move through the world in Assassin's Creed Shadows. Honestly, we're at a point now with the PERK system that it's so polished that we barely even notice it anymore. And that, my friends, is testament to just how slick this thing is. Your character glides around Japan like a ghost with ADHD, vaulting over obstacles, leaping across beams, scaling stone walls while grabbing every tiny jut, crack and crevice with exact precision. And yes, we got grapple hooks to climb walls and can now go prone and hide in long grass. None of it groundbreaking of course, but it just gives you more options to go play hide and seek. And it's not just traversal, those animations carry straight into combat too. You'll be flipping over some poor sod's back, slitting his throat like you're carving Thanksgiving dinner. The whole thing looks smooth, deadly and downright psychotic if you're into that sort of thing. Now, not everything is roses and throat blood, very much the theme of this review up to this point I'd say. Horseback riding for example, it's fine, it's serviceable, but it's also a bit stiff. Like the horse has just come back from a hernia operation. It's nowhere near as fluid as Ghost of Tsushima, which handled horse movement like it was buttered up and gliding on rails. Here it feels like your noble steed's permanently clenching his arsehole. And your own sprint speed, mate, your shinobi sprints at the speed of sound, like she's trying to outrun the sheer size of the world map. But the real crime scene is the cutscenes. They're real time with higher res character models, which sounds sexy until you realise they've locked it at 30 bloody FPS. I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs at 40% GPU usage while these mannequin faced samurai chat in slideshow mode. And speaking of mannequins, what's up with the animation quality in these cutscenes? It's like everyone's just been unboxed from their collector's edition packaging, dead-eye, stiff-armed and moving with the grace of a hungover donkey. After the fluid motion of actual gameplay, the shift into cutscene clunkiness is jarring as hell. It's a real shame too, because you could see the potential. If they just matched the cutscene fidelity to the gameplay, it would be chef's kiss. Now, one of you absolute legends in the comments did ask me a very good question about Assassin's Creed Shadows. Is any of it good for newcomers? And also, is it good for you lot that like to get hard over historical accuracy? Well, let's tackle that second bit first. If you're hoping to learn something about feudal Japan, maybe impress someone on a date with some spicy samurai facts, forget it, mate. The historical setting here is more set dressing than substance. Not to say the setting isn't great because it's bloody gorgeous, but don't expect to walk away smarter. This isn't Ghost of Tsushima where you felt immersed on the culture and story of the era. This is more like what if anime got a Netflix budget and a katana. Now, for newcomers to the series, yeah, you're alright. You're going to absolutely be able to play this without having touched an Assassin's Creed. The whole Animus bollocks is still there, but it's mostly in the background. You don't need to know the lore, you don't need to know the legacy, or the fact that Ubisoft somehow has managed to milk the franchise more than any cow could actually take. You can jump in fresh, enjoy the murdering, sneaking, looting and stabbing, and you'll get along just fine, as long as you can handle the sheer bloody size of the thing. And yeah, Yes, that's what she said. But here's the truth, straight between the eyes. If you want authenticity, you want a tighter, more respectful and more emotionally grounded samurai experience, just go play Ghost of Tsushima. It's miles ahead of Shadows in tone, style and storytelling. It's like comparing a beautifully handcrafted katana to one of those dodgy decorative ones that you buy off Wish. And now we come on to the big one, the graphics. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know the drill. We don't mess about here when it comes to visuals. We're recording in full 4K, everything maxed out, running on a nuclear powered 5090. With DLSS set to quality mode, I'm hitting around 120 frames per second, and yes, you'll see those benchmark stats floating up in the top right hand corner throughout this video to give you a sense of everything. And I'll say this, to all the haters and naysayers, pipe down and take a look, because if you're lucky enough to have Shadows cranked up everywhere at 4K, then it's a stunning example of what Ubisoft is capable of when everything lines up. The lighting, the weather, the camera angle. It's like the game goes from Ubisoft bloat to a digital art installation. You'll see the sun rising over the mountains, slicing through broken clouds, casting light onto rolling fog that creeps over those rice fields. The town's proper eye candy, high fidelity models in every corner, huts, fabrics, decor, all lovingly detailed. You can practically smell the incense and feel the grime under your boots. But the biggest surprise of all, destruction. This time around, the environment actually reacts to your carnage. You can slash through bamboo like you're trimming the garden with a katana. You get to shatter dojo screens with a blade and cut through some poor sod's chest. Lights can be taken out to help your stealth even further, although not really needed with the dumb as rocks AI, sadly. The world doesn't just look good, it feels like a little playground, which is impressive given its scale. And say what you like about Assassin's Creed as a franchise, but when it comes to making a game that looks standout, they've absolutely smashed it. My favourite detail of all is murdering some twat in water, watching their blood actually colour it red, and the water itself, holy shit, does it look good. Now we need to talk about the weather system too, because honestly it left my jaw on the ground at times, and I don't say that lightly. It's not just, oh look, it's raining. This thing's got atmosphere, it's got presence, it's got more mood swings than your ex. First off, the wind. It doesn't just blow from point A to B like a cheap fan in a budget hotel. It swirls, it bends, it whips through the trees with a randomness that actually makes it feel alive. Watch closely and you'll see it. Trees moving in the same general direction, but with variation and subtle shifts that make the whole thing look utterly believable. And then it really happens. A storm rolls in, slowly, naturally, none of that sudden on-off toggle crap that so many other games fall for. The clouds, they start creeping in and you know something's brewing. The light then dips, shadows start to stretch and the clouds start growling like it's ready to kick off. The wind then really picks up, whipping through those aforementioned rice fields, and that's when the rain starts. Slow, teasing, just a few drips off the rooftops, a bit of a pitter-patter on the huts, like the world's doing a dramatic little drum roll, but it's not at full frenzy mode until suddenly, boom, you're in the middle of a full-blown monsoon, and mate, it's glorious. Vegetation bending, puddles forming, roofs slick with water. But there's one minor issue, and that's the lightning. Jesus Christ, the fault lightning looks like it was drawn on by an intern. It's so janky, so out of place, that when it flashes across the sky, I didn't feel awe, I felt pity. You've built this gorgeous immersive weather system, and then you slap on some Saturday morning cartoon lightning like a last minute afterthought. Ubisoft, come on, you were so close. But then, as that storm passes, you find that Shadows quietly flexes its muscle again. In most games, the storm ends and it's back to sunshine and daisies within, 30 seconds? Not here. You'll see rainwater trickling off rooftops long after the rain has left. Puddles will linger on the ground, and a world that takes time to recover. It's slow, deliberate, beautifully done, like it's taking a deep breath after a big little tantrum. And yet, despite all that atmospheric brilliance, do you know what weirdly lets the visuals down the most? The people. Yep, the actual human beings populating this world, the way they move, the way they behave, the lack of realism in their animation or reaction to the world events around them. It all just sticks out like a sweaty thumb. Now, let's chat about the sound design, because for the most part, it's bloody brilliant. The music, first off, is a real treat. They've got this lush, moody score full of windpipes, strings and dramatic swells that make feudal Japan feel properly alive and cinematic. It litters the world in just the right way. Never too much, never too little, just perfectly balanced. It gives you that lone warrior at the edge of the battlefield vibe, a bit of melancholy, a bit of tension. But then it happened. I'm watching a cutscene of a battle, and out of nowhere, the game drops this odd rock music mix that sounds like someone's just queued up their Spotify gym playlist by mistake. And I'm sitting there thinking, what the hell is this? Are we in Japan or at a Slipknot concert? It's a small moment in the whole game, but it's one that just sticks in my memory as it perfectly summed up Ubisoft's ongoing identity crisis with this game. Sound effect wise, I can't complain at all. The weather effects are especially brilliant. You'll hear that rain hitting wood, tile, cloth and every surface in between. Thunder rumbles in the distance like a pissed off god with indigestion, and the whole thing just wraps you up in this brilliant audio storm blanket. It's the kind of immersion that gets you proper lost in the moment. Combat sounds, they're pretty decent too. Exaggerated as hell. Yeah, you sort of stab someone and it sounds like you're fisting a lump of meat. Every slice, every slash, every neck ventilation procedure has that squelch to it. Slightly ludicrous, but fun nonetheless. Now the voice acting, here's where it all goes a bit tragic. The actors themselves, no issue. They're doing their best. You can tell some of them are really giving it their full Shakespeare, but the script that they've been handed, absolute clanger, some of it. Lines are so cheesy you could melt them on toast and call it lunch. It's the kind of writing that yanks you right out of the world, like the game suddenly wants to remind you, hey, remember, this is still Ubisoft, lads. You'll be knee deep in drama and then someone will spout something so cringy it yanks you right back to reality. Generally speaking though, I thought the sound for the most part was bloody good. We live in strange times, don't we? Back in the day, reviewing a game meant you could say, yeah, it's alright, without starting a digital civil war. But these days, everything is either the best game ever made, and if you say otherwise, you're a YouTuber shill working for big Ubisoft, or it's the worst pile of pixelated horseshit to ever disgrace gaming, and now you're a toxic hater out to destroy our industry. And no series seems to summon this frothing madness quite like Assassin's Creed. Now look, I've watched a few reviewers, some of them I genuinely respect the bollocks off, and they've absolutely laid into Shadows like it slept with their nan, called it the worst in the franchise, said it's unplayable, all doom and gloom, and you know what? A lot of it to me sounds like they barely played the thing. Meanwhile, over on Steam, Metacritic, Google, you've got people either giving it a 10/10 masterpiece badge or a 110 death sentence. No middle ground, just rage or reverence. And that, to me, is all a bit depressing, because the truth is this: Assassin's Creed Shadows is a solid 6 or 7 out of 10 game in a world that doesn't allow for that kind of judgment anymore. It's not the worst thing Ubisoft's ever done. That award still goes to whatever the fuck happened with Skull and Bones, and it's not going to save the company either. It's not going to win Game of the Year or make you weep with joy either, but it is a fun game. It looks bloody gorgeous, it sounds fantastic, has some great little systems and delivers just enough stabby satisfaction to keep you going, but it's also running on fumes, recycling the same old cookie cutter mechanics, plagued by dumb AI, suspect animations and that ever present feeling that we've all done this before. So today's score, it ain't a hype train ticket or a pitchfork rating, it's a reflection, a game I recommend on sale when it's dropped into that sweet $30-$40 range, where it'll feel like a good time rather than buyer's remorse. And perhaps the real tragedy is that Ubisoft had something here, a chance to start fresh, a brand new IP, a samurai epic, free of the animus baggage, the synchronized towers and the bales of hay every 10 feet. They could have made something genuinely legendary. To put it bluntly, this didn't need to be an Assassin's Creed game at all. Until next time, my lovelies, love to you all. Reggie out.